Welcome to programminginparadise.com. I hope you're doing well today and wanted to thank you for checking out our brand new course on Crestron programming. There are a million videos on YouTube and we wanted to thank you for watching Programming in Paradise. This is part one of many parts, so we're just going to delve right into it. The first thing you want to do when you start a brand new program in Simple Windows is to launch a brand new Simple Windows project. So while we're waiting for that to open up, there's a number of instances or little features that we're going to go through and create as we get this wonderful project started. The first thing we want to do is, you can see that when Simple Windows opens, there is nothing there. So what we want to do is we want to start a new Simple Windows program. This will bring open our header. So system name, we will name this Programming in Paradise. Oops. Dealer name, HMG LLC. I am the programmer. This system is a CP3N. Compile version, we just click on that. That'll reach out and see the version that you have installed, and same thing with the firmware. This is our CP3N that we will be using in Programming in Paradise. Click OK. It goes out and finds the firmware version on our device. And some of the settings here, we want to make sure that a program ID is main. And then we can add a comment in here. So we can put Programming in Paradise program. And then we click OK. That creates our header and starts our program. And as you can see, once it opens up, in our configuration view, which is by the barbecue grill, because the two things we'll be using are the configuration view, which is the barbecue grill, and the programming view, which looks like a cockroach. So we will go back to our configuration view, and right now we do not have a control system associated with our program. So what we are using is a CP3N right here. So we can drag that in there, and it populates what the back of our CP3N looks like. So this is getting to the first part of our system. And the equipment that we have attached to our C3PM will be through Ethernet. So you have Ethernet COM ports, I/O ports, you have IRs, and you have a bunch of other things that are associated. But right now we're just going to be concentrating on our Ethernet. So we have in IP ID number 3, we will add our touch panel, which is a TSW 1060. So that IP ID is now associated with our touch panel. Once we get deeper into the programming, you will see how we will link this IP ID to our touch panel. And with this configuration, we will scroll all the way down to IP ID 30. And these are just, you could put them anywhere, but this is just standard practice of how I've learned programming through the years dealing with Crestron. And what we will add here is I have an 8x8 DM switch. So let's see, there's a 16x16, 32x32. I have just a generic DM 8x8. I don't have an RPS or one with a processor or any of that other good stuff. So I will add my 8x8 to IPID number 30. So then we add that. And as you can see in our tree, we are starting to build out our devices that will be controlled by our CP3N. And then when you open this up, you will see that you have input cards and then you have output cards. So you're thinking, okay, how will I know what is installed in my system? Rule of thumb, never, ever, 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 never, ever go by the drawings. What you will want to do is you will want to launch Toolbox. Let me bring Toolbox over here. Oops. Come on. You will want to launch Toolbox. And then in your text console, you will come down to your address book in Programming in Paradise. We want to locate our 8x8 and then click OK. We will wait for it to go out, and now we're connected to our 8x8 processor. And I believe it is report DM that you will type at the prompt. So what this does is it will tell us what cards are connected to our DM. So as you can see here in slots 1 and 2, we have a DMC HD DSP card in both those slots. Slot 3 of our input, we have a DMC TAC C. And then we do have a transmitter attached to that card. And the same with slot 4, we have a DMTX201 TAC C attached to that card. And in slot 5 of our 8x8, we have a DMC DVI card. And as you can tell, it goes from 5 and it jumps down to 17. Why is that? Because 1 through 8 would be our input cards. And then it jumps to 17. This is our first output card as denoted by output card. So in 17, 18, and 19, because with this DM series they're set by 4, we have a DMC HDO, DMC HDO, DMC HDO, DMC HDO. And then in our next slot we have a DMC CATO HDA, Cat5, Cat5. And then the DMC HDO. So why is this important? Because we need this information to populate into our DM. So I will just take a screenshot of that real quick because we'll want to close out of our DM tools. And then I will put this on another screen where I can see it and you won't be able to see it. So our input number 1, we will right click, add a device to our DM 8x8, and that was a DMC. As you could tell from our screenshot, we have a DMC HD DSP. So if we scroll down our list, DMC HD DSP, there it is right there. So we will add that to slot 1. And let me look at my screenshot. And we also have that for slot 2. So we add that. It remembers the last thing that we had, so that adds it to slot 2. Slot 3, we have a DMC TAC C. So go in here, add device, DMC TAC C. So we add that to our device. Okay, slot 4 is a DMC TAC C. So slot 4, add DMC TAC C. Like I said, remember the last thing that we had. And then pull this back up. So we see with these DMC TAC Cs, we also have a DM DMTX201C. So what we do, go back up here, expand this out till we get to its input. Right click, add device to DMC TAC C, and we have a DMC TX201C. DMTX201C. Add that, and then we do the same thing to slot 4 because we have 2 of those, DMC TAC C. So right now, as you can tell, we are building out what we have populated, or what we're being told is populated in our 8x8 switch. And then we come to our outputs, DMC HDO. Outputs 1 through 4, right click, add DMC. Oh, let me look at that again. We have a DMC HDO. DMC HDO, look at that, on our list. So that gets populated in 1, 2, and 3, 4. Add it also here. Then what else do we have? We have a DMC CAT HDO. So slots 5 and 6, add DMC CAT HD. Perfect. So that goes in 5 and 6, 7 and 8. We have a DMC HDO. DMC HDO. Perfect. So now we have what our device is saying populated into our DM switch, which is connected to our CP3N via Ethernet. So that's how easy it is to start building out your devices. And then what I like to do is, since the project that we're building, I know that inputs 1 and 2 are going to be our codec. So we can go to configure, which gives us all of our information about that card, and I will rename this to codec in number 1. And this is tedious, but it will codec in number 2. It will save you a mountain of time when you're going back and wondering, oh, what do I have connected to input 1, input 2? So input 3, we have this transmitter, which I have them connected to lab computers. So I can easily, as a generic, put this as PC number 1, and then I could go back and name them later, but at least I know that, hey, I must have a transmitter because that's where my PC is coming in. And then PC number 2, we will name our, which is input 4. So right now, the way that our system is set up, input 1 and 2 come off of our codec. Inputs 3 and 4 are our PCs. So input 3 is PC number 1, input 4 is PC number 2. And then coming down to our outputs, the way that this is configured, where you have your output cards, like I said, 4 slots. Outputs 1, 2, 3, and 4, which are listed here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I know that my output for this will be my codec in number 1, because the output will go back into the codec, and then codec in number 2. So I know that the outputs, and then I can come up here as a reference and just put codec. So for my codecs, my output number 1 of my DM switch goes into the in1 of my codec. The output number 2 of my DM goes into the input number 2 of my codec. My output number 3, since I only have one display hooked in, I will call outputs 3 and 4 my displays, even though I'm only using one, and I will call this, it's an HP display, so I'll call you HD display. So in a matter of, call it 15 minutes, because we're at 15:50 right now, we have already set up our DM, we set up our DM and our processor with what cards, how to find those cards, and how to input them, the card information, into our DM. We added our touch panel at IPID 3, and we're using a TSW 1060. And we put our DM at IPID 30, which is a DM 8x8. We have 4 inputs into our DM, 2 from our codec, 2 from PCs that are connected by transmitters. And then we have 3 outputs assigned on our DM, 2 going into our codec, and then we have 1 display coming off of our 3 and 4 outputs of our DM. Hopefully this makes a lot of sense to you. And if you have any questions, please put them in the comments, because it only gets more and more, I don't want to say complicated, it just builds on everything that we're doing here. The important things to take away: note the IP IDs where you're putting your equipment. Our touch panel is IPID 3, and our DM is at IPID 30. So I will keep these videos under 20 minutes. So we are at 17, call it 18 minutes right now. And I just wanted to thank you for getting started with programming in Paradise and starting out with our SIMPL project. And we have a lot more lessons to get to. So once again, I greatly appreciate you tuning into Programming in Paradise, and you can check us out at programminginparadise.com, and always on our YouTube channel, and make sure that you do click subscribe. All right, have a great day.